And do you have the slides? Oh, that's me in full regatta. I had to return the shirt for security reasons. So I just got a shirt and I put on all the paraphernalia that we wear. We wear these little badges and a name tag and something from the arch says which park we're from. And sometimes we would run across the Federal Railroad Agency. They would have inspectors on the train. And they were not aware of the program. And it's like, what are you doing here? And I thought, uh-oh, it's a long way to walk back to St. Louis. But anyway, they finally got around to accepting us. We did some things for them that they thought were pretty nice. One thing we had to know is where the emergency toolkit was. There was a sledgehammer crowbar, which I would never use. And there was a safety or emergency medical pack. We had to know the locations. Now, the fellow that I worked with was named Bob Dakeman. He was noted here by one of the other residents. Quite a character. His nickname was Paper Cup, and he actually was a railroad employee for over 30 years. And they called them car knockers. They would go through a train before it leaves the station, make sure everything's hooked up and everything's running right. Well, these old cars would have open circuit breakers, not the solid state stuff. And some circuit breakers would not work. So in almost every passenger car, the drinking fountain was a thing on the wall with a little spigot. And you got a little triangle piece of paper that holds about a sip and a half of water. And that's what you drank. If you're really thirsty, you could go through a lot of those. Well, he would go up and get some of those and stick them in the open circuit breakers to keep them open. And it would work until the train got to the station. Well, he couldn't give that up. So every time I got on a train, I got an education. Now, one of the things I had to learn to know is where was the main circuit breaker in case the train derailed. There are battery boxes underneath. If they catch fire, you got a big problem. So there's a circuit breaker. When I open the panel door and I see 600 volts, I ain't sticking my hand in there for nothing. But he would just, brave as he can be, he'd go ahead and show me where the breaker was and everything. And we'd get on a train sometimes more if the air conditioner was too cold, he'd go in there and he'd change it. Well, if the conductors caught him doing that, it would be a long walk back to St. Louis. The camaraderie that we built up with the train crew was very unique, and I remember a lot of that. And I made friends with some of the train crews. All of them are retired now. But I did have an opportunity to ride in the locomotive. And at that time, they were brand new. And that was cool. They're old now. But they had console cabs in there. We could sit in a cab. And I'd ride out to Kirkwood, because we didn't start our program until we got to Kirkwood, then from there on out. And they wouldn't toot their horn. They could just leave the bell ringing, because there was laws along the way that you don't blast your horn away at each crossing, which makes it exciting. But I was surprised at the engineer when he was with me. He was the chief engineer. He was the only one to allow me up in the cab. And he would walk around the cab pointing things out as this thing is trundling along at about 30 miles an hour. I thought, what do you do if we really run into something? Jump. We did have one experience where we hit a car, but we were in St. Louis and we were only going about 30 miles an hour. A car pulled in front of us, and when you run into a 140-ton locomotive, you don't move it very much, but it will move you in a big way. Turned out the individual was not really hurt. The car, we just took the front end off the car, but other than that. And it was funny, he owned a company, and he was on his employees about crossings. You know, you guys be careful going across that crossing. He preached it daily. Here he was, the only one got hit by the trains. But we had some, experiences like that. I learned a lot from the passengers. Some passengers were very astute about their history and so forth. We started off at a place called South Point. Now, South Point is the furthest south that the Missouri River flows. There's a station, or was a station there called Bowles. But if you drew a line from that point to the Mississippi River, it would come out around just north of Jefferson Barracks. That's how far north the Missouri River flows around St. Louis in a big loop. But to get there, you have to go down grade from Kirkwood down into the Merrimack Valley, all the way through Eureka, Pacific, and then through a 1,200-foot tunnel under Gray Summit. I don't know if anybody ever knew there was a tunnel there. I didn't. And then you go through that tunnel, you come out to Purina Farms, and then there's another 400-foot tunnel, and you go out on the bottoms. And that's when we really take off with the program. Now, during this trip, I would just play around with the kids, and I said, I think it's too bright out there. I think I'm going to turn the lights off. And sure enough, you go through the tunnel, and it gets dark, and it really gets the kids' attention. And I said, that's enough, and you're going through it at about 79 miles an hour. It doesn't take long to go through the tunnel. But we had some unique experiences. One, I have to tell you about it. It's a story I didn't believe when I first heard it. Chief Running Bear. Apparently there was a resident in Washington, Missouri, that decided to add a little bit to the scenery. So he would go nude, stand beside the track with an Indian headdress on and a shaft. I didn't believe the story. Well, when the train is coming to the station, we shut the program down, give an intermission, and go back and sit down in the seats. And we had a group of Girl Scouts, and all of a sudden this girl said, "There's a naked man out there." And I ran to the window, but I missed it because the train went by too fast. And of course, Bob Dakeman was telling me, "See, I told you, I told you." Of course, I didn't believe any of his stories. So the attendant said, "Okay, the next few trips, what I'm going to do is contact the engineer, and if he sees this guy, he'll call me. And we'll go back to the vestibule and look out, and you'll get a good look at this guy." Not that I really wanted a good look. So we went several trips, and all of a sudden I saw him picking up the phone. We were coming to Washington. I knew what was coming. He hung up the phone, and we ran to the vestibule. Well, they're Dutch doors. We opened the top door. We leaned out. We're going around this curve, and here was an aberration. I couldn't believe it. The guy didn't have the complexion of an American Indian, so what he did, he colored himself with some kind of orange dye. He was bright orange. And I thought it was a mannequin. I didn't think it was real. Well, then, you got close enough. He was real. And I kind of let him know what I thought about his outfit and what he was doing, and his family heritage and so forth. And then we went back in the car, and then Bob Dakeman was just laughing, pounding on the table. "Well, what's the matter?" He says, "Do you realize the passenger door was open to the coach? And every passenger in that coach heard what you said." So it was hard to go on with a program, presenting that program to kids after the language I used. But you run into things like that were very unique. I enjoyed every minute of it, really. I was here, the first 2 years I was here in the village. I got up 4 o'clock in the morning. We did it every other Saturday, just pretty regularly from May through November. And there was no pay for it, but it was great. We got a free cup of coffee, And lunch, we got a entree with chips and soda. And that was part of it. But about 6 years into it, they changed the program schedule. What was happening was the trains on the Jefferson City line were running later and later. We would run into jams and just delayed the passenger trains. Amtrak didn't have any sway at all as far as scheduling, so they would hold us back and let a freight train through, which irritated the heck out of everybody. So, I'm sorry? Yeah, there's a freighter. Yeah, I know. Yeah, freight trains made money. We didn't. So they changed the schedule and they moved us to St. Louis, to Springfield. The scenery was not the same. On the Missouri River, you saw the eagles. We had eagle days. We had this box with eagle feathers, the tail feathers, in one of the claws or the feet of the eagle. And we would take it around, and everybody was very impressed because we had a story to tell about eagles, the strength of their eyesight and the strength of those claws. And one time we were going through there, and there was a woman who said she was from, I forgot the name of the tribe. And she says, I've got to consecrate that box. Because it was sealed. We couldn't get, we had paperwork that allowed us to carry it, but we couldn't, what do we do? So there was no instructions of what to do, so I said, okay, consecrate it, but give it back to us. And she put it down, and she put a shawl on, and she made all kinds of noises. I can't tell you what she was doing. And the conductor came up and said, what's going on? And this is very important, she's consecrating these box. Well, we go back, I write it up on a report, and then Mike Corns, the park ranger that was in charge, says, Bob, that lady has been on every train. She's not any relation or any relatives or any kind of American Indian blood in her. He said, she pulled one on you. But you run into things like that made it humorous. One of the more serious things we did was sometimes there were children riding on a train that didn't have any parents or anything riding with them, so we would take care of them. And one of them was poignant. There was a young boy that was going back home because his father passed away. And Dakeman and I had a problem with that, but we got him taking the furs around and showing them to the passengers, and it took his mind off of it. And the federal regulator saw it and wrote us up and said, give us a commendation. So that was nice. What we did in one of the pelts was the otter pelt was just a sleeve. So when we're talking to the children, we put our hand in there and we're just kind of showing it around. Not paying attention to the pelt, but just move your hand inside the pelt. Boy, the kids really lit up. They thought the thing was alive. But again, once the girls got the pelts, we had to fight them or drag them away from them. Going to Illinois, the theme changed to Lincoln. It was Lincoln service, so we talked more about Lincoln and his presidency and his history, the legacy. One of the things along the way was a place called Macoupin. And that was my favorite place. It was near Carlinville. Now, Carlinville was unique. It was going to be a state capital, so they built the most expensive courthouse in the state of Illinois because they thought they were going to get the state capital. They didn't. But Macoupin was down to one building. And I would build this thing up about going into Macoupin. Now, we're going to go into this town, and I want you to look at the significance and all this. And this building goes by, and everybody's, is that it? Yes, one building. But Carlinville's interesting. They had the Blackburn College there, and the students worked there. They actually ran the college. They did all the administrative and everything. And it was interesting that the college was associated with Prairie Farms milk, dairy. They worked on that. But it was a very good program. I enjoyed it all the way. Unfortunately, both Bob Dakeman and Mike Corns passed away within months of each other. And I ended up training new VIPs. And it just got a little old, so I gave it up. But I could have done it for a much longer time. But in appreciation, they gave me a placard. This is a piece of cable from the cables in the arch, and they cleaned it up and put it on a placard, and it gave you a. But we had annual meetings or dinners every year to celebrate it, and it was a great job. Thank you. Oh, I'm going to put a plug in. Mary is telling me that we need some more people up here telling us about some of their experiences. I think if you have some unique experiences at work or volunteer, I think you should come up and tell us about it. You know, we're all happy. Nobody threw anything at me.
We agree, that would be nice. And now Pam Jordan is going to honor us with a reading.
What does she see? Age 3. She looks at herself and sees a queen. Age 8. She looks at herself and sees Cinderella. Age 15. She looks at herself and sees an ugly sister. Mom, I can't go to school looking like this. Age 20. She looks at herself and sees too fat, too thin, too short, too tall, too straight, too curly, but decides she's going out anyway. Age 30. She looks at herself and sees too fat, too thin, too short, too tall, too straight, too curly, but decides she doesn't have time to fix it, so she goes out anyway. Age 40. She looks at herself and sees too fat, too thin, too short, too tall, too straight, too curly, but says, at least I am clean, and goes out anyway. Age 50. She looks at herself and sees, I am, and goes wherever she wants to go. Age 60. She looks at herself and reminds herself of all the people who can't even see themselves in the mirror anymore. Goes out and conquers the world. Age 70. She looks at herself and sees wisdom, laughter, and ability, and goes out and enjoys life. Age 80. Doesn't bother to look. She puts on a purple hat and goes out to have fun with the world. I'm going quick. This is called conversion. An atheist was taking a walk through the woods. What majestic trees, what powerful rivers, what beautiful animals, he said to himself. As he was walking alongside the river, he heard a rustling in the bushes behind him. He turned to look. He saw a 7-foot grizzly charge towards him. He ran as fast as he could up the path. He looked over his shoulder and saw that the bear was closing in on him. He looked over his shoulder again, and the bear was even closer. He tripped and fell on the ground. He rolled over to pick himself up, but saw the bear right on top of him, reaching for him with his left paw and raising his right paw to strike him. At that instant, the atheist cried out, "Oh my God!" Time stopped. The bear froze. The forest was silent. As a bright light shone upon the man, a voice came out of the sky. "You deny my existence for all of these years, teach others I don't exist, and even credit creation to a cosmic accident. Do you expect me to help you out of this predicament? Am I to count you as a believer? The atheist looked directly into the light. It would be hypocritical of me to suddenly ask you to treat me as a Christian now. But perhaps you could make the bear a Christian? Very well, said the voice. The light went out. The sounds of the forest resumed. And then the bear dropped his right paw, brought both paws together, and bowed his head and spoke. Lord, bless this food which I am about to receive from thy bounty through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Pam. And now Bert is here. Maybe he has a follow-up for that. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. All right, Chuck, there we go. Good to be with you this morning. More than 40 years ago, I discovered the music of a man named Terry Scott Taylor, and I've really appreciated. He's quite the prolific songwriter, and he's written across a multitude of genres. He's been in rock and roll bands. He has been in swing bands. He has played and written ballads and love songs, hymns, Christian music, just a large variety. He continues to write music to this day. He'll be 76 later this spring. And one of the bands that he's in, and he's been in several, just released their latest album last month. And so I've been listening to that, and there's a song that struck me off that album that I thought I would share with you today. It's called In the Here and Now, and it deals with this concept. It's about relationships, it's about love, but it deals with this idea. As we all age, sometimes we look back, and sometimes we think, if only I could go back to the past, when I was stronger, when I was healthier, when I was fill in the blank of whatever it is that we wish for, or sometimes wishing we could go back and fix mistakes we've made along the way. And other times we look to the future, and we do so with worry and concern. And the idea of the song is that when we do either of those things for long, either looking back or looking forward, we miss out on the fact that life can be really good right now. And so this song's called In the Here and Now. And I tried to figure out the chords yesterday, so we'll see how we do. There's no going back, the past is the past, and immortal you summer beyond my grasp. Most things are ending, but still I am free to choose to be as happy as I want to be. You make me smile, now I'm learning how to stay for a while in the here and now. We'll never be all that we can conceive. That's one tired bromide we pretend to believe. We can't do everything we set our minds to. That's a lie we are told, but this much is true. You make me smile, now I'm learning how to stay for a while in the here and now. Here and now, The eternal breaks through. Here and now, I'll forever love you. I recall the first touch of your fingertips, the tremble of desire, the first passionate kiss, the girl with the dreams and the boy with the plans, all of the world in the palm of their hands. I can't go back to fix mistakes I've made, reshuffle the deck with the cards I've misplayed, or take back the words that cut to the quick, foul off the same ball and call it a hit. But you make me smile, and I'm learning how to stay for a while in the here and now. In the eye of the storm, down the back of the hill, I'm transfixed by your beauty. Time standing still, and you make me smile. And I'm learning how to stay for a while in the here and now. I'm learning how to stay for a while in the here and now.
Thank you, Bert. That was beautiful. And now we're going to do another sing-along. Pack up all my cares and woe, here I go, singing low. Bye, bye, blackbird. Where somebody waits for me, sugar sweet, so is she. Bye, bye, blackbird. No one here can love or understand me. Oh, the hard luck stories they all hand me. So make my bed and light the light. I'm coming home late tonight. Blackbird, bye bye. Pack up all my cares and woe. Here I go, singing low. Bye bye, blackbird. Where somebody waits for me, sugar sweet, so is she. Bye bye, blackbird. No one here can love or understand me. Oh, the hard luck stories they all hand me. So make my bed and light the light. I'm leaving home late tonight. Blackbird, bye bye. And now we have the answers to trivia.
This shirt belonged to Jim Corn. I wear it as a little tribute. We were born the same year. But I will tell you, I am not the new trivia guy. Bill Schick does these questions, but he needs me because he doesn't know the answers. But, so. Okay, I think you guys like this one because the answers are almost all there. You just have to pick them out. Number one, circle each of the following that mean meals or meal in various English-speaking countries. And those are tucker, found, grub, chow, board. Circle all of them. Don't look at me like I'm crazy. You can look at Bill later. Okay, anyway, it says tucker is used in Australia, found in the American West, and board as in room and board. Number two, true or false? Before the arrival of the Europeans in the New World, indigenous peoples tamed and rode horses. Who said false? Oh, smarty pants. Okay, that is false. The Europeans introduced horses into the New World in the 15th century. Number three, true or false? Before the arrival of Europeans in the New World, the indigenous peoples knew how to make and use the wheel. Well, that is true. Archaeologists have found children's toys with wheels made by indigenous peoples long before the arrival of the Europeans. But these people did not use the wheel for transportation due to not having horses. Number four. Place the following major events into chronological order, beginning with the earliest of Y2K, 11/11/11, and 9/11. I don't think anybody was around for the 11/11/11. But the answer is the earliest one, 11/11/11, 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, Armistice Day in 1918. And then Y2K was the transition between years of 1999 and 2000. And 9/11 occurred on September 11th, 2001. Number five, what famous novel opened with the passage, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times"? And that is A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, and that's the next question. Charles Dickens wrote all but one of his novels during the reign of which English monarch? Queen Elizabeth I, Queen Elizabeth II, King Edward VII, or Queen Victoria? Well, it's Queen Victoria. She began her reign in 1837, while Dickens' first novel, The Pickwick Papers, was published in 1836. Number seven, according to Genesis 8:4, where did Noah's Ark come to rest after the flood, Mount Sinai, Mount Arafat. I had to Google that one, it didn't sound right. Turns out it's a real mountain and even has some significance. Mount Hebron, Mount Ararat, and it is Ararat. So, Bert, did anybody ever find that ark? No. No?
Still looking.
Number 8, even non-golfers know this. Where is the 19th hole located on a golf course? And that is the clubhouse bar. In which country was automaker Elon Musk born? Australia, Canada, South Africa, USA, or New Zealand? And in 1971, it was South Africa. And number 10, might get a little confusion here. In which country is the Gaza Strip located? The answer is Gaza is the country, and Gaza Strip is simply an alternative name for that country. Who had something different? Nobody had anything different? Yeah, Palestine we can take. Okay, well, you graded your own paper, so you probably got an A.
And now Mary Ann is going to do a reading.
All right, first of all, I want to say thank you to Zach Zook for having given me all those pictures for the event that we did, looking at the last year. He gave me the pictures and the videos. And I think I forgot to say that last time. So anyway, you guys can thank Zach if you see him too. So a resident came forward and told me that on a nice cold January day, I might want to have someone read this poem. And so we're going to do it today. It's called The Cremation of Sam McGee, and it was written by Robert W. Service. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The Northern Lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake LaBarge when I cremated Sam McGee. Now, Sam McGee was from Tennessee, where the cotton blooms and blows. Why he left his home in the South to roam round the pole, God only knows. He was always cold, but the land of gold seemed to hold him like a spell, though he'd often say in his homely way that he'd sooner live in hell. On a Christmas day, we were mushing our way over the Dawson Trail. Talk of your cold. Through the parka's fold, it stabbed like a driven nail. If our eyes we'd close, then the lashes froze till sometimes we couldn't see. It wasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam McGee. And that very night, as we lay packed tight in our robes beneath the snow, and the dogs were fed, and the stars overhead were dancing, heel and toe, he turned to me, and Cap, he said, I'll cash in this trip, I guess. And if I do, I'm asking you that you won't refuse my last request. Well, he seemed so low that I couldn't say no. Then he says with a sort of moan, it's the cursed cold, and it's got right hold till I'm chilled clean through to the bone. Yet tain't being dead, it's my awful dread of the icy grave that pains. So I want you to swear that foul or fair, you'll cremate my last remains. A pal's last need is a thing to heed, so I swore I would not fail. And we started on at the streak of dawn, but God, he looked ghastly pale. He crouched on the sleigh and he raved all day of his home in Tennessee. And before nightfall, a corpse was all that was left of Sam McGee. There wasn't a breath in that land of death, and I hurried, horror-driven, with a corpse half hid that I couldn't get rid because of a promise given. It was lashed to the sleigh, and it seemed to say, you may tax your brawn and brains, but you promised true, and it's up to you to cremate those last remains. Now, a promise made is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern code. In the days to come, though, my lips were dumb. In my heart, how I cursed that load. In the long, long night by the lone firelight, with the huskies round in a ring, howled out their woes to the homeless snows. Oh, God, how I loathed that thing. And every day, the quiet clay seemed to heavy and heavier grow. And on I went, though the dogs were spent and the grub was getting low. The trail was bad, and I felt half mad, but I swore I would not give in. And I'd often sing to the hateful thing, and it hearkened with a grin. Till I came to the marge of Lake Labarge, and a derelict there lay. It was jammed in the ice, but I saw in a trice it was called the Alice May. And I looked at it, and I thought a bit, and I looked at my frozen chum. Then here, I said, with a sudden cry, is my crematorium. So planks I tore from the cabin floor, and I lit the boiler fire. Some coal I found that was laying round in it, and I leaped the fuel higher. The flames just soared, and the furnace roared, such a blaze you seldom see. And I burrowed a hole in the glowing coal, and I stuffed in Sam McGee. Then I made a hike, for I did not like to hear him sizzle so. And the heavens scowled, and the huskies howled, and the wind began to blow. It was icy cold, but the hot sweat rolled down my cheeks, and I don't know why. And the greasy smoke in an inky cloak went streaking down the sky. I do not know how long in the snow I wrestled with grisly fear, but the stars came out and they danced about ere again I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but I bravely said, I'll take a peep inside. I guess he's cooked, and it's time I looked. Then the door I opened wide. And there sat Sam, looking cool and calm in the heart of the furnace roar. And he wore a smile you could see a mile, and he said, please close that door. It's fine in here, but I greatly fear you'll let in the cold and storm. Since I left Plumtree down in Tennessee, it's the first time I've been warm. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Labarge. I cremated Sam McGee.
That I love, stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountain to the prairie to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Have a great week, everyone.
Well, it depends on what